We'll wait for Pam once she gets her thing
Oh,
going
yes,
back up here
sorry.
to roll.
Yes. You know me, I want to get going and get out.
Make a motion to adjourn.
And Alderman Rucker is here to make sure I speak into my microphone.
Yes. Speak into the microphone. All right, you ready? I will call the monthly regular meeting of the Osage Beach Planning and Zoning Committee to order. First thing we'll do is stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Bill McKay,
Here.
Alan Blair,
Here.
Gary Jones,
Here.
Angie Schuster,
Here.
Nancy Vasselli,
Here.
Chairman Susan Ebling,
Here.
Mayor Michael Harmison,
Here.
Tony Kern,
Here.
Jessica Roser,
Here.
Alderman Bob Osteen,
Here.
Bill Morgan.
Here.
Welcome, new commissioners, to your first meeting. Do we have any comments on the minutes from the March 8th meeting? If there are none, I would entertain a motion.
So.
So we have a motion, second? We have a second from Alan Blair. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed to the approval? Hearing none, motion passes. I'm going to do this, I don't read necessarily, just new people, I don't necessarily read this every single meeting. This was something I asked the previous mayor if we could add to the meeting agenda. Generally, I read this out loud if there's something in contention or we have a crowd of people and TV cameras, so that people are aware of what our function is in particular. Our function is not one where we are elected. Our function is one where we are appointed, which means people are welcome to come to the meeting. They're welcome to voice their opinion if we allow them to, and that's fine, but we weren't elected by them. So we follow a specific set of rules. That is what we are voting about. It doesn't, the other stuff doesn't necessarily play into it. That's for the Board of Aldermen. Hence why I read this. So I'm going to read it tonight, even though I wouldn't normally if you guys weren't here. Good evening. The Planning Commission is a board of volunteers that is appointed by the mayor and the Board of Aldermen. Its function is to review and make recommendations to the Board of Aldermen on matters concerning development, the land use code, and the zoning map of the city of Osage Beach, including amendments and changes thereto. Recommendations will be made with the consideration of conformance to the Osage Beach Municipal Code, along with the following: relatedness of the proposed amendment to goals and outlines of the long-range physical plan of the city, existing uses of property within the general area of the property in question, the zoning classification of the property within the general area of the property in question, the suitability of the property in question to the uses permitted under the existing zoning classification, the trend of development, if any, in the general area of the property in question, including changes, if any, which have taken place in its present zoning classification. Our goal in regulating is to provide adequate provision for transportation, water, sewer, schools, parks, and other public needs, including safety, health, and general welfare, light, and air, while conserving the value of buildings and property through encouraging the most appropriate use of land within the municipality. So, I may not read that every meeting, but I'll definitely read it at meetings where there's a lot of people here, so they just are clear on what we're here to do. Tonight, we have two pieces of new business. The first order of business is rezoning case 419, which is a request by Phoenix Property Development LLC for a recommendation to approve a rezoning from C1, which is general commercial, to A1, which is light industrial. Carrie?
Yes, Chairman Ebling. Actually, it's I1, light
I1,
industrial.
sorry.
A1 is agricultural, so they don't want to go to that
I
for
saw
sure.
A1 and I said light industrial and it didn't match in my head, but I said it anyway. I'm sorry. That's my fault.
We don't want to do that.
We do not want to do that. We do not want to make it a farm.
Yes, good evening. Basically, this request is by Phoenix Property Development, as the chairman said, and they are the owners of Slumberland. And they actually own the Slumberland property that the facility that they currently own is there. Okay, so the furniture sales facility is on a piece of property, and then we are also looking at the 3 adjacent pieces of property that they have recently purchased. And when they spoke to me, what their ideology is one, the shipping company that Slumberland uses is owned by the father-in-law, I believe, of the owner of Slumberland, and they are looking to locate in the building that was previously the interior design, the interior motifs building. And then they have a drive up to the backside of the warehouse that they built on the Slumberland piece of property. And then, of course, on the other side of the interior motifs building and the existing warehouse, they have approximately 2.5 acres that are still vacant and can be redeveloped or add development to that piece of property. And their ideology is shipping, freight, possible transition center. You know, this is, at least has been, the top slumberland in the state of Missouri. So this is one of their more important locations. And when somebody is purchasing furniture to go into the lake, which there is a lot of happening currently, fortunately, the transition center from one location to another is at this piece of property that we're discussing today. So you might ask, why are we requesting to go from C1 to I1? So the light industrial zone allows everything that is capable of being done, or all the permitted uses within the general commercial zone. The difference is that one, you add a few minor, non-intrusive industrial type uses such as warehousing, trucking, freight, loading, unloading, transition, and a few other things such as packing, minor assembly, basically any kind of industrial use that doesn't cause intrusive, noxious odors or noises or issues like that that can be non-conducive to an adjacent commercial use. For that matter, when I say anything within the commercial zone can go in the light industry zone, you could see a franchise restaurant in the light industry zone. And by that nature, our code itself says basically uses within the C1 and I1 are conducive to work together. The basic difference between the two is that within the commercial zone, any of the lot layout, whether there's loading, trucking, freight, you know, for instance, the furniture store. Under commercial, as it is now and when they built it, all of their area was required to be hard surface, whether it be a loading, unloading area, trucking area, similar to, say, a department store like Walmart or a grocery store like Deerberg's. All of their surfacing is required to be hard surface. In this particular situation, what rezoning this to light industry will allow them to do is that the areas dedicated to trucking, freight, loading, unloading, storage of production capital or heavy equipment can be done on an approved aggregate surface, okay? A gravel of type, but while they can do gravel, they still are required to meet drainage requirements and regulations within the city code. Lake of the Ozarks is certainly one of those places where if you put down gravel, or regardless of what you put down, if it starts raining, some of it's going to wash downstream. And in this particular situation, I think that we understand that most of the stuff on this side of the bridge tends to wash down to the Sycamore Creek property. And we want to, you know, take as much pressure off of their piece of property as we possibly can. So that's why when they came to me and asked what they could do, you know, it's something that they could have kept the Slumberland piece separate and kept it commercial, but it doesn't really make sense to keep one commercial and then put, you know, 3 industrial on each side of it when the Slumberland piece is still allowed within the industrial zone. So that's why I recommended to them that they go ahead and make this request to the Planning Commission and the Board of Aldermen. And with that, I would give this to you with a recommendation to approve.
Go ahead. If commissioners have questions of Carrie, go ahead.
Carrie, does that, if I understand it correctly, the commercial area where people are coming in to buy, that will still be a requirement for being a hard surface?
Yes, the way that it is enforced, parking areas, whether it's for the employees or customers, even within the light industry area, is required to be hard surface. So, it's not one of those things where we would be saying, you have a light industry, and if Burger King came in next week and had found a lot that was zoned light industry, that if they put their restaurant in, they could have gravel parking. So the gravel or the aggregate areas are isolated to those that are dedicated, designed, and designated for the trucking and freight and loading and unloading, that type of thing.
Any other questions?
Oh, come on, there's got to be something. Nothing?
That's what I was thinking.
All these new folks, nothing?
If there are none, then I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right? And we have a motion and a second. Do you want us to do a roll call vote? Okay.
Bill McKay,
Yes.
Alan Blair,
Yes.
Gary Jones,
Yes.
Angie Schuster,
Yes.
Nancy Vasali,
Yes.
Chairman Susan Ebling,
Yes.
Mayor Michael Harmison,
Yes.
Tony Kern,
Yes.
Jessica Rozier,
Yes.
Alderman Bob Osteen,
Yes.
Bill Morgan,
Yes.
I don't think we have any unopposed, so motion passes. Second order of business this evening is a discussion of a proposed amendment to Chapter 405 zoning regulations and Article 5 signs.
Yes, Chairman. From time to time, you all know that when I start getting specific queries from multiple different groups for something very similar or the exact same thing, a lot of times I will take that into account and, do some diligence on it and bring that to you to discuss. Okay, and in this particular situation, our sign ordinance was approved back in 1999, and since 1999, we have, done a few other things within the code to deregulate things a little bit. When it was done in 1999, the digital message center was not an overly seen or popular thing because at the time, it was still very, very expensive. When I first got to the city of Osage Beach, you could buy a 30 square footer for about $40,000. And it just wasn't, in the cards for a lot of the businesses to do that at the time. But even at that point, we had put in, or they had put in, to allow a 32 square foot digital message center to be a part of any of the signage that could be done in the community. So standardly an 8x4. For example, the one that we have out front on our sign is a 6x5. It's a 30 square foot sign. In the meantime, we've had larger groups come in, such as Deerbergs, and then Pruitt's Point had come to us at one point asking if it would be possible for them to put up something larger, simply because their, identification signs for their development are 800 square feet, or 600 in the case of Deerbergs. And if at that point, we looked at them and said, well, yeah, you can put a 32 square footer on your 600 square foot sign, the equality of scale is just not there, okay? So that's what brings me to tonight. So Deerbergs, and being a metro shopping center, and Pruitt's Point being a regional shopping center, and the definitions of the two are separated out by the size and number of acres that they have, and then the square footage of their retail area. The regional shopping center requiring two minimum 50,000 square foot retail centers. Okay, so it's got to have the large anchors. Metro doesn't require the anchors. It just says 10 acres and 100,000 square feet total of retail. But that doesn't really address, our other large pieces of property with large amount of commercial or retail space. In particular, we've got a number of new developments that are going in currently, and actually have 2 to 3 older developments that are doing, commercial refacing of their business as a whole. And part of that is putting new signage up. on the expressway or on Osage Beach Parkway for their development. And all of these, of the 5 that I have spoken to that have mentioned wanting to do something like this, they all have over 5 acres and they all have over 25,000 square foot of commercial or retail floor space, meaning that they can have very large signs to the tune of 200 square foot for their individual development. And much the same as the metro and regional shopping centers that I talked about, if you say, yeah, you can put up your 200 square foot new sign, but you can only put a 32 square foot digital center in it, it looks kind of like you've allowed them to put a postage stamp TV in their sign facility. And so with that, this is something that I put together that will allow those larger pieces of property. They won't have the 120 square foot that you would have for the regional or the metro shopping center, but double the size of the 32 will allow them something greater than a 6x10, okay? And a 6x10, while that seems big, and I'd love to have that as a TV in my house, when you put it on a 200 square foot sign, it doesn't look out of place and it doesn't look, ridiculously large. So this is something that I wanted to, this amendment and this addition to this portion of the code is something that I wanted to put out to you all to discuss, have you all, give me any comments that you might have. This is certainly the sign code is the community's code, and not something that I typically go out and just make changes willy-nilly. But, when I see something like this, and part of it is every single one of them ask me, well, is there any chance of getting a variance? And as you all know, I'm not a big fan of variances for things that make sense, because if it makes sense, why not make it available, okay? There are times when variances are the right and only thing you can do, when the code is the code and people have a certain situation that creates a hardship to where they can't meet the code. That's when the Board of Zoning Adjustment will take a look at their, their particular case and their hardship, and they can give them a variance. But like I said, when it makes sense, when you look at it the way that, this situation is, it made more sense to me to bring it to you all to make a change in the code than to require each of them to go get a variance, or at least attempt to get one, because
What if somebody wants a sign bigger than that? What if they have a huge development and a 60 whatever square foot sign is still not big enough?
well, if they can meet the regional or the metro, then they can do the 120.
But that's still not digital.
But that would be, the 120 is digital. For, like, Deerberg's is 120 square feet. It's a big one.
Yeah.
But it's so high up in the air and with such a big sign, it doesn't seem that large. And that's kind of the point. That's why I'm putting it out, for discussion. It's something that has been controlled with the 32 square footers for, your standard 1 acre, 5,000 square foot, commercial facility. A 64 square footer is twice the size of what would be allowed on that. But, if we want to go, if we feel like, if you all feel like larger is acceptable, that's fine. That's fine. It's
So you
just,
go off of the acreage and how many square foot's in the building?
Yes.
Where you start from, and then you go bigger, is on the digital sign.
not on the digital. So on the
Or
digital,
any sign.
on their regular sign, just their sign that says whatever their business is, we use the size of the property, the amount of road frontage, and the size of their building with an equation to come up with the amount of primary sign that they're allowed. Okay, so the bigger everything that you have is, the more that you
The
can
bigger
have.
sign you get, and
Yeah.
then,
So for example, Walmart, because they are a single property owner on a single property with like 900 feet of frontage, they can have over 3,000 square feet of primary signage, which is basically anything that says Walmart.
all right.
Now, they don't have near that much, but they could.
Now, this is for the digital sign, so what would be the biggest digital sign they could have?
The biggest digital sign that, like I said, within this, so the biggest digital sign that Walmart could have, actually Walmart would probably meet the requirements for the Metro Shopping Center, so they could put up a 120 square footer if they wanted to. Walmart doesn't use digital signs anywhere.
Yeah, so you're asking to go from the 34 minimal to the 64 minimum.
I'm asking, or what I've put here, it's not necessarily that I'm asking, it's what I am working towards in trying to help the groups that I've already spoken with that are looking for 60 square footers. They've all been looking for 60 square footers, but is to allow the larger developments that have 5 acres and 20,000 square foot of commercial building area to be able to have a 64 as opposed to just a 32.
So right now, they could only have a 32.
Right now, they could only have a 32.
Okay, so you,
Unless they met the requirements for a metro or a regional shopping center.
so
What would be an
basically,
example of that? What- where
Of
that
of a regional or metro shopping center,
Yeah, that would benefit from this.
that would benefit from this. One example would be the Inn at the Grand Glaze. The Inn at the Grand Glaze,
Okay.
they are one of the companies that has approached me because they're doing a rebranding and new logos and stuff, and they're wanting to put up a new sign at their entrance. They have a digital sign right now, and it's an old grandfathered one, so it's a little bit bigger than a 32, but it still doesn't look right under the sign that they have now. So they're an example. They're one of the groups that has talked to me.
One of the things that is referenced in here is that wherever they have access to a thoroughfare, they can
roadway.
put a roadway, they can put a sign of equal size on 3 sides or maybe even 4 sides of their property.
If they have access, yeah, so they're allowed to have, no different than, say, Pruitt Point, which has one on Osage Beach Parkway and on Highway 42, you know, anywhere where you can pull into the development. But that's the same with all of our,
But very few of them have
businesses.
digitals on the side.
Yeah, no, very few of them do. Pruitt's Point, talked about it, you know,
Yeah.
3 years ago or so, but they never did. I think because they just have all of the big signs on their large pole signs and no room for a digital necessarily. And then if you start looking at other ones, the Outlet Mall, whenever they redevelop, they definitely will meet the requirements for a metro shopping center and possibly a regional if they have 250,000 square foot, you know, anchor locations. So at minimum, they'll meet the metro, which will allow them to have 120 square foot on any of, you know, on the frontage of their roads. So, another would be, Osage Commons, when they're complete, would be another location.
Or Hobby Lobby?
Yeah, that's where Hobby Lobby is, yeah.
Okay.
So for reference, Swift's is a 32.
Who's?
How big is Swift's digital sign?
Swift's.
Company
Swift.
next to the puppy stop.
EXP.
Across from
Oh,
Walmart.
theirs is 30, I believe.
30?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think they have a 6x5 just like
Yeah,
ours.
okay.
Yep.
I do have a question regarding the ordinance. This is related to proximity of the business. I'm gonna give you an example, Backwater Jacks. Obviously, they are not road frontage, they are back off of that road, but Gary owns the lot to the left side of that entrance to the road. Can they do a large digital sign on that property, even though it doesn't adjoin the business? It's still owned by the same owner of that facility.
They cannot put a sign for Backwater Jacks on
Old
the-
Grand Rally Cart.
on the old Grand Rally property currently.
And why not? Because
That
they
is-
own that property.
It is considered an off-premise sign, and by our code, you can't put another off-premise sign within 2,000 feet of another off-premise sign.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify on the
And
proximity
then
ordinance.
and then you also, still on Osage Beach Parkway, you have MoDOT still has control of off-premise signs as well. So, and theirs is 1,600 on the same side. So, problem is with that location and doing an off-premise sign is that you have the billboard right across from Walmart that the Mexican restaurant,
Mamacitas.
Mamacitas is on. And it's within like 400 feet, 500 feet.
Okay.
of that
Thank you.
location. Yeah, but Backwater Jacks could put one on their property, and when they're done with all of, you know, their expansion and everything, they have a plan for a new sign that has a digital on it. But it'll be a 32 square footer.
Really?
because- Yeah, yeah. Their sign's not, they're not gonna put up a monster sign, so.
They're not gonna need it.
An odd question. Has anyone ever talked about waterfront digital signs? Using Backwater Jacks again as an example, putting up something waterfront?
They haven't, they've never brought it up to me. I don't know that it's, you know,
Just use that as an example, because obviously there are
yeah. I mean,
dozens of places that would benefit from that too.
it wouldn't
for
shock
business.
me to at some point see one of the lakefront locations want to put a digital on the side of their building facing out towards the water. I certainly think that that is something that, you know, the planning commission and the board and maybe even the citizens advisory committee would want to take a hard look at, because if you put a digital board casting out over the, you're gonna hit a lot of homes. And that would be what we would hear, is homes going, why did you let that happen? Now
Yeah.
I can't sleep at night because
Right.
it looks like a movie going, you know, at night. So there's a lot of considerations. While I could see it. I mean, I'm surprised we haven't seen it. But you know, that would definitely, if somebody came and started asking about that, that's probably something that I would throw to Mayor Harvison and say, hey, take this to the Citizens Advisory Committee and let's talk this over. And at minimum, you know, see if there's a way we can, at, you know, after 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night, control the lumens or have it shut off at a certain
Certain
point
time, yeah.
or something, you know, to where we could meet what they want to do, but still take care of the residents in that code, you know.
It's probably something that should be on somebody's agenda fairly soon, because
Yeah.
honestly, I think it's a great idea for a waterfront business, but we don't have anything in our codes addressing that specifically.
Well, at Backwater Jack's new stadium pool, or whatever name we're giving to it, that's basically gonna be all digital.
Yeah, and it'll be,
And
and
it's
it'll
gonna
be
be
inward
bright.
facing,
Yes.
but those aren't considered signs, so
I know,
we won't.
they're screens,
Yeah, they're screens, we won't control those.
right.
but-
I'm just saying, we're about to go down a slippery slope.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
But-
so do you want us to vote on this?
I would, you know, if, you know, in an attempt to try to help those folks that are trying to get something new done for the summertime, and knowing what those groups are asking for, and in anticipation of more of them coming that are similar, I would love to see us pass something forward to the board that if it's not this, something that still will help us accomplish the goal. But if there's something better that you all would have in mind, let's change it and send it to them.
Does this allow for signs that are focused on the expressway?
No,
No.
no.
That has to go through
There's-
MoDOT.
Yeah, there's no actual accesses to any businesses off of the expressway, and this has to be located on one of their business access road frontages. So
Okay.
the majority that you're going to see these on are going to be on the parkway. They're going to be the Intergrand Glaze, possibly like the Topsider would, property and their
yeah.
development, once it's done, would work because they'll meet the square footage. Osage Commons, the Outlet Mall, well, even on this side, probably Blair's Landing might be able to. So there would be some that would be able to meet it.
These digital signs, though, are probably going to replace some of the static signs that
Yes.
currently occupy the space.
Well, I don't know that they'll replace the static sign, because the static sign gives the identification, and we haven't seen any desire for that. We just want, what I've seen desire for is for them to, one, which I think is a great thing from an aesthetic perspective, is they're able to afford these now, and they are so much cleaner and nicer looking than the old plastic
Yeah.
interchangeable letter boards. That is what these are replacing.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the LED boards are replacing those, and these are so much cleaner, and, you know, they can provide clearer and more messages for the business, you know? And like I said, this is what I use, knowing that these businesses with these sizes have large amounts of primary signage that they can use to both do their primary sign and incorporate these signs on multiple frontages. And you know, going up double the size of what we have existing, which would allow a 10-foot in width, when you start talking about, you know, 150 square foot signs or so, that would still look, you know, in scale with that type of sign. And that's why I went with that number. I mean, if the planning commission thinks that we could go larger, you know, we could. That's, like I said, that's just a number. I doubled what we had, and brought it to you for discussion.
Well, this is something that, you know, we could move forward with this now, and if it turned out that more was better or
Well-
appropriate, this is, I mean, this is a pretty significant improvement
Sure.
for visibility.
Yes.
We can always still grant variances
Well,
also.
And it allows businesses to
If
move
we had
forward
to.
now based on
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
guidelines, which
Right,
we
that's
can
right.
adjust for the.
Yeah.
And it's quite a, you know, honestly, and I know Mayor Harmison, and you know, the sign code is definitely one of the things that he wants to take a look at. So I have a feeling that we're going to be looking at, you know, possible things that we can do to adjust this code regardless in the coming future. So I don't foresee it being a situation to where, you know, over the next 5 to 10 years of development that we're not going to see new trends and new technology and new things that we have to address. So you're absolutely right. If we sit this forward now, I know, you know, that there's probably 3 permits that I would be able to go ahead and give for existing businesses. And if it comes, you know, in the future, if they come back and you know, businesses are looking larger, I can always bring that back to this group and you can talk about it and send something to the board and then they can discuss it, you know, but that's, you know, my point of trying to do this is to make something that, you know, to me, in discussing it with them, makes 100% sense and make it available to both them and anybody who would come after them to ask for it and not say, no, you're gonna have to go try to get a variance. Because quite candidly, you can't meet a hardship for a sign like this, and if it makes
Yeah.
sense, make it available,
Right.
you know, and that's the way I look at it. So,
Okay.
that's where I'm at.
I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. We'll do a roll call vote.
Bill McKay,
Yes.
Alan Blair,
Yes.
Gary Jones,
Yes.
Angie Schuster,
Yes.
Nancy Vasselli,
Yes.
Chairman Susan Evling,
Yes.
Mayor Michael Harmison,
Yes.
Tony Kern,
Yes.
Jessica Rozier,
Yes.
Alderman Bob Osteen,
Yes.
Bill Morgan.
Yes.
That was everybody unanimously, so the motion passes. Do we have any reports or anything else you want to talk about tonight, Gary?
Well, you know, other than, obviously, we've got some new members. All of them have been longtime members of our community, all have businesses and/or are retired from business, and I was fortunate enough to have some long conversations with all of them, and we are very fortunate to have each and every one of you. And I certainly welcome you, and I am here anytime you need anything, whether it's planning related or not, or you think I can mess it up or give you an answer, give me a call, I'm here. Other than that, you know, as it pertains to the rezoning tonight and that general area out there, you know, the last time that we had something out there that was the same type of request, I made the comment that we should be open to, you know, that type of request. And I anticipate, with conversations that I've had in the last, you know, month to 2 months, that we will probably see another 2 locations out there that will be requesting something very similar. A couple of them are pretty exciting reasons, so. But that's all I would have.
Okay. Yes?
I have 2 comments. I assume this is your doing? As
She's trying to
always.
make us fat.
So thank you. Secondly, this is for the new members on the commission. The Board of Aldermen elect a board member to sit on Planning and Zoning Commission every year. Traditionally in the past, it's been a rotation process where every year it's a new member for the Board of Aldermen who will sit on Planning and Zoning. But per our Board of Aldermen meeting last week, I actually have been appointed to serve my 2nd year on this Planning and Zoning Commission, so you've got me for another year.
Good.
Just FYI, because normally, once again, in the past,
Yep.
it's a new alderman every year on P&Z, but I get a 2-year term now.
And anybody who has any sugar issues, just let us know and we'll get nuts for you next time instead of candy.
Nuts.
Maybe some,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
fruit snacks or something.
Okay, anybody else? Mayor, you want to say anything?
No, just happy to be here. Carrie and I had a nice meeting today. We talked a lot about, and he's right, I will hopefully be reaching out to the Citizens Advisory Committee, talking about the sign policies. There was one thing during the campaign that I wanted to address, and I think we're going to see millions and millions of people coming here. And I kept saying that years ago they didn't want us to look like a tourist town. Well, guess what? We are. And but certainly keeping the nice look to it and that sort of thing. But appreciate the conversation with Carrie and look forward to being on the board. So, thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
I don't want my candy. Your candy. Here, you take it. That's for you. Kevin, how are you want those? No, you don't need candy.
Yep, take all the candy from your daughter except that you can take that. Thank you. She will appreciate that.
I think this will be good.
Snack bar, that's my daughter.
Snack bar.
She's all kinds
Where
of,
else?
you know,
Everybody's giving it to the
training right
kids.
now, so she's not even candy.
Oh, man.